Well, good morning and welcome again to the Installer Show 2025 here at the NEC, and you're once again joining us in the BiKBBI Studio at the heart of the show. We've had a great programme of speakers, good conversations and debate, which is what it's all about as far as we're concerned. And our next guest here today is a familiar face, somebody hopefully you will also know, but somebody that I've known for some time, Simon Akers from Simon Akers Group. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. I appreciate you saying that, Damian.
No, well, listen, we've known each other for a long time, mate, and we share a lot of common interests, and that's kind of brought us closer and closer over the years, right?
Yeah.
Tell us first of all, Simon, why you're here, what do you do? Give us a bit of a background on yourself, mate.
Thank you for that, Damian. I appreciate the opportunity. Like you said, we are exactly matched. So for us, we're passionate about the apprenticeship journey,
Yes.
And one of the things that we've identified from the recruitment journey is that our customers just don't really understand how to. So I guess for us, to answer your question, we're here to help break down those barriers, answer a few questions.
Dispel the myths.
Dispel the myths, and there's lots of them, mate. And but also the most important thing for us is to help signpost. So a lot of our customers are partners, and we want to signpost people to the right direction. I had, for example, this morning coming into the show, another inquiry where somebody said to me, Simon, we want to move ahead with an apprentice, but I've been looking, what do I do?
I don't know how to.
And it's a conversation for the journey back home tonight. That's what we do, exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, and you know what, I think it was funny, I had an interview with Andy Davies yesterday. It was lovely. We go back a long way, as you know. But Andy sort of threw a little bit of a curveball in, and he said, over the last 20 years, David, what would you say your biggest achievement is? It's really difficult. I think it's difficult to sort of pinpoint, not because there's millions of achievements, but it's just I don't really sit down and ever think about that question. But I think that the key thing for me was around the fact that installation and apprenticeships and skills gaps, that's now on the agenda. And I think, everything that we've done here has played some part in bringing that to the agenda. However, I will say that that's only possible on the people around us joining in that conversation and driving it in their own part. And, what you guys are doing in terms of apprenticeships is, I would say, second to none, mate. I genuinely would. I'd take my hats off to it.
You have to have a passion. So, we're very much into working with the people like yourself, which is very important. We'll come back on to that, I'm sure. But also the Apprenticeship Ambassador Network, so we're working with the Department of Education on how to simplify the click process on the Gov.doc website as an example. That's one thing we do. We've done some some fabulous careers days. We had 100 retailers in one room to try and say, this is what you need to do. However, it has to be said, when they walk out the room, it's often forgotten.
And there's always the problem. A lot of people, I think one of my frustrations, Simon, I'm sure you'll share it, is that I think everybody understands what the problem is, don't they? We all know that there's a skills gap. We all know that apprenticeships will play a significant part in fixing it. And we all nod and agree and go, that's a great idea. But actually, when they leave the room, the energy dissipates a little.
You have to handhold people. If you don't handhold people, if you send someone a link and say, there's a link, click this link, they'll give you the information. It never happens. So I think one of the things that we do on the AAN is to buddy up with SMEs. That's a big thing for us now. It's like a working group. So if we've got like a situation where we can look after in our region a number of SMEs on that journey, that works. But you have to go and see them face to face, and you have to hold a hand over.
Get into their world and understand. Do you think that's the big problem? Why do you think then? Why have we not cracked this where other industries have? Why have we not managed to do that?
Well, I think it's a great question. But let's go back to that example this morning. So I had a text, and the text said, Simon, I want to move ahead with this apprentice in my business. It's a KBB business, a very well-known KB business. And this individual has been on the Gov website, had a little look round, and got totally and completely and utterly confused. So in that given situation, the answer to your question is there's still too much information out there in terms of not being specific. So I think, we've got on our website, which you've got a great reference on your website, Damian, like a apprenticeship and a careers day link.
Yeah.
So that tells you information that we've delivered on these live events, which you've attended actually.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to that.
Yeah.
But that information is there. So if you're looking at specific KBB or merchant apprenticeships, they can come to your website, they can come to my website.
Yeah.
We're putting the content out there. One of the good things that we are doing is this journey of an apprentice. So we're working with, thank you for that. Yeah, we're working with some wonderful people. This is Emma and Peter Butt from a joint service in Aylesbury, you know.
Yeah.
And they've agreed very kindly to utilise their apprentice, Ashton Clifford, and he is now going to be the star of the show. So we're filming right from the very beginning of the interview process to the on-site installation, to the academic learning, to the endpoint assessment if we're allowed.
Yeah.
But that film is going to be polished and going to be so strong, so it will show people in a very visual way what the journey is on hiring to endpoint assessment and how that individual has benefited that business.
Yeah, I think that's key, because I think a lot of businesses don't really see, I think they think that it's all about them giving something back to the industry, and to a certain point that is the case. Yeah. But apprenticeships and apprenticeship programs, if successfully delivered and incorporated in a business, can be incredibly powerful and beneficial to that business, right?
Yeah. I've just been talking to another retailer I bumped into today, and he's hired 2 apprentices in his time, both actually, you'll be pleased to hear, installers. And his feedback was that he basically said, Simon, great for the first 18 months, first 2 years, but then in his words, they got greedy, that's his words, and they decided, actually, I can see this guy making some money here, I can do it myself.
I'll have some of that.
And of course, they've both left.
Sure.
One of them actually came back and said, now I'd like to come back again. The other one's doing very, very well. Okay. And I sort of said to him, well, there's an employer responsibility there. If you want to maintain an apprentice, you have to pay an apprentice. And after qualification, then that's another opportunity for a good conversation.
Yeah.
But what we both agreed on, though, was that whilst they have contributed to his business, he's done his bit for the industry.
Yeah. I would agree. And you know, you sort of brought finance into it a little bit there, and that's a really key point for me, because we often get a lot of interest, you know, from potential employers talking about apprenticeships and how do I take them on. How much do they cost is obviously an important topic for an employer, especially an SME, a micro SME. The costs are really important, and I get that. But one of the first questions that they ask is, what is the minimum wage for an apprentice? And I always say, well, you know, the adage is true. You get what you pay for, almost. And if you genuinely want to bring an apprentice in, somebody into your business that you can mould and shape, who's going to add value and be there for years, don't start off at the bottom. Now, I'm not suggesting that you start off at the top or anywhere near it. But the first question should be, how much can I save?
That's
you know?
Well, you have to enter into a contract. If you're going to take an apprentice on, you know, what's the employer's responsibility? What's the apprentice's responsibility? You can't do any of that without being financially, you know, for both parties, beneficial for both parties. But you know, we took on 2 apprentices at Simon Akers Group, and we did not pay the minimum wage because we wanted to maintain and retain. And in truth, what happens, and we all know the statistics, that typically 50% drop out.
It's a lot.
In our case, that did happen. So we maintained 1 apprentice who passed with distinction for a biz administration level 3. And our digital marketing, she decided, she's a young person of 18 years of age, that she wanted to be a teacher. Well, I can't change that. When I was 18, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
No, I'm not sure I do now.
Well, there you go. But we both know, we've been to the North American market, we've both done that review, you know. And they do it so differently. And what they do, they actually invest in their best asset, the people. But after probation, maybe after a few years, and they've got more certainty that person will stay. And that's quite a smart thing. I think in this country, we're too driven to talk about just young people.
That's a very, very, very good point, because the word apprenticeship often is associated with young people, but that's not necessarily the case, is it? Right.
Well, I'm 54 years of age, Damian, as you probably know, but I am, I don't look it, of course.
No, absolutely
but I was an apprentice 2 years ago, so I completed a level 3 independent assessor qualification. And I had to do some work outside of, you know, work hours, if that's the right way to say it. But, you know, I'm proud that I did that work, and I'm proud to have that qualification. I think the big thing also is that people sometimes think an apprenticeship isn't it's actually a qualification. It's a recognised qualification. And I think we need to over-communicate that part as well.
Yeah, because you know, you talk back yesteryear, an apprenticeship, especially in our world, you know, you're talking about trades. the apprenticeship was the cheap person that used to sweep the floor, make the cups of tea, and they would be 10 a penny. They'd come and go. And so I think half of the challenge that we've got is really to help our industry understand what a modern apprenticeship is. It isn't somebody who's going to necessarily make the tea and sweep the floors, albeit that may very well be part of it, but there's so much more that they can bring to the table. So that's a really good point.
I mean, you mentioned Andy Davies there, and I had a good chat with him yesterday like you did. And, you know, I said to him, I want to say thank you to you and all your trade press counterparts, because you guys, for the last probably 18 months, I've definitely seen an over-communication of this topic.
It's the front page of this show, and I know it's an installer show, but it's still the front page.
You know, we should take our hats off to the trade press, because absolutely they are helping at the minute get that message out there.
Agreed. And to be fair, that's coverage and, you know, coverage and actually getting the conversation going. We couldn't afford, I couldn't afford to pay Andy Davies or people for that coverage. So the fact that they're doing it, I think is admirable. You're right.
All over it,
So we've known each other for many, many years, Simon. Many, many years.
We have,
and our paths have crossed in a number of ways. But more recently, obviously, there's a whole piece around your apprenticeship work and your passion for it. And obviously we are as well. I come and spoke to you, and I asked you for a bit of a favour, didn't I, Simon, in terms of coming and supporting what we're doing. Do you want to talk about what that relationship looks like now?
So I think we are basically saying that too many people in the industry work in silos. You know, we're doing what we do, you do what you do, etc., 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 without naming names. You know, we've got to work together. We have to work together. And I think I heard a statistic yesterday about, you know, in 10 years' time, you used to say your stat, and someone's increased that stat, which is quite alarming actually, about the lack of tradespeople to fight. If we don't do something now, we will not have an industry.
Stuffed.
100%. We are stuffed. So, answer to your question, what we're looking to create here is we're looking to create more signposts. And so people come to you, people come to us, as long as the net overall gain is additional apprenticeship hires.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're looking to create.
Absolutely. And you've joined our advisory board.
I have, so,
which is, you know, the experience. I know you sort of just about your age, but your experience and what you've seen in all areas of your career, which is, you know, to be fair, it's covered quite a broad spectrum of this industry, so you've got a really good understanding. But that experience is, you know, that's very valuable to us and for our overall industry.
It's too much over the years. There's been too many conversations and not enough action. You know, like I said, right to the very beginning of the conversation we had today, you know, like, to me, it has to be about hand-holding now. Whether the government can get involved, I don't know, but it has to be about hand-holding. It
has to be about I couldn't agree more. Before we sort of wrap up, we're just about to speak to a chap by the name of Harvey, I believe.
We are, so,
so would you just tell us a little bit about Harvey then?
And I guess that goes back to your original question, what do we do? So Harvey is a grandson of a very, very well-established 40-year-old KBB business. And the granddad who's here today said, Simon, I'd like my grandson to consider apprenticeship options. Well, the first thing is, come here today. That's
come and have a look.
And that is typical of what we do. So in this particular case, Dad lives in Leatherhead. So it's about what ways can we look at to open opportunities for an apprenticeship. And of course, there's various ways. So what we said is, you know, you go onto the gov.org website, look at the training providers who will have an affiliation with local employers. But, you know, also there's like the main reason that we were in the conversation was that we have the connections and the contacts. So I think my advice also would be, you know, could go to any recruiter, not just Simon Akers Group, but any recruiter will have ways to fast track those conversations. And I think that's really, really important. And sometimes it's the people that you know in the industry. As long as we're helping each other, we'll have a thriving future.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to look forward to that conversation.
Perfect. That's good.
I do want to personally thank you, mate. Honestly, genuinely do.
I appreciate that.
I think what you do is great. I think the fact that you shout from the rooftops and you put your money where your mouth is, I think is admirable. I wish there were more people that did it, but you're leading the way on some of that stuff. And you know, from my point of view, somebody who's really passionate about this, lovely to see, mate. Genuinely,
we're on the journey together.
We are, mate. We are. Listen, Simon, thank you very much. Everybody else, look, it's been an absolute joy for us here at the Installer Show 2025. The conversation continues. This is just the beginning of it. There's much more to happen over the next 12 months. So stick to our YouTube channel. We'll direct you to our nearest and dearest partners, including Simon Akers Group, for all things apprenticeships and learning and development and recruitment. So, but thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.